We're getting into a conversation this hour. Many words have been thrown around over the last couple of weeks, and sometimes we're not even quite sure what they mean or what they portend. But that's why these two gentlemen are here in the hot seat this morning. He's former president of the Law Society of Kenya, Eric Theuri. He's here with us this morning. Good morning.
Morning to you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for honoring the invitation. Patrick Osoi is an ex-military officer and a security expert, and he also joins us this morning. Good morning, Patrick.
Good morning to you, Audrey.
How are you doing?
Very fine.
Thank you too for coming.
Thank you.
We're going to welcome you even as we get into this conversation with today's proverb. Dennis has gone to Senegal.
Yes.
And we'd like to hear interpretation of the Senegalese proverb.
All right.
All right. Has any of you gone to Senegal?
I just got to know that they elected their president who was in prison. So that is how powerful the people are.
Indeed.
Yes.
Powerful and very, very wise.
Yes, very wise.
So our proverb is a very simple one. It's a four-worded proverb. And early in the morning we said when you have proverbs that are very few words, sometimes they sound very difficult, but they're very, very simple.
Right.
This one is one where you don't need to think a lot. And it's very simple. Water has no head. Water has no head. How would you interpret that proverb? Give you a moment to think.
Oh yes, that's a deep one.
Yeah. Like I said, the fewer the words, the more complex it sounds, but it's very, very simple.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's quite heavy, but I think is it? There's some sense of formless. I mean, water has no form, so I mean it can take any direction. It can. So that's. In very few words also, I'm trying to be as short as
the proverb itself. Fantastic.
Yep. What I would really look at it is water conforms to the shape that is given. At the same time, is a calamity that also can cause harm, though it does not start or end. So it means that it depends on how you handle things or handle situations to be able to be channeled where they're supposed to be. That's the proverbs.
Both of you are so spot on. Like I said, it's not complex. It's all about flexibility.
Yeah.
It's just about flexibility.
Right.
Spot on.
Indeed. All right, so we're getting into a security and anti-terrorism conversation this morning because it's absolutely necessary that we do. Obviously, we know that today there are a number of people who are being held because of charges of terrorism. We know that there are folks who've been arrested and then at their release have been rearrested by the anti-terror police unit. And when being asked about bail, we've also been told that by the CS that, even this 50,000 shillings that you people are talking about, that is a low amount of bail for these charges of terrorism, which are serious in the country today. Let's start off with you, Eric, from a legal point of view, where we are looking at these things. Let's start with definitions, first of all. When we hear terrorism, the thing that we think about is somebody in certain regalia blowing up a plane or something. That's what we think about. It's in our heads in that manner. But apparently, it's different. Why?
Well, I think your understanding of terrorism and my understanding of terrorism is what we know terrorism to be. I mean, that there are people who are determined that they would want to disrupt public order, they would want to cause fear and mayhem, they would want to kill people, they would want to interfere with, critical systems in the country. And in most instances, they also have a cause that they are pursuing. So be it religious, be it, political, be it ethical, in terms of ethics or, tribe. And so that is what we understand terrorism to mean. And that actually is what terrorism is. And when you look at our laws, although they define those acts of terrorism, including destruction of property, killing, and all that. When you see the thread that runs through how terrorism is defined, all those ingredients are actually set out in the law. And one of the things that will obviously come when you read the definition of what terrorism is that if the destruction of property arises from a situation of riot or demonstration that may turn into a riot, that in itself, even though it may constitute the ingredients that define terrorism, then that cannot be terrorism. So I think we are witnessing a situation where, in my own view, you could call a government setting up war against its own people by labeling them terrorists. Yeah.
If, Patrick, terrorism is the use of violence or threats of violence against civilians with the goal of instilling fear, coercing governments, or advancing political, religious, or ideological objectives, is that what we see playing out with the individuals who are in remand right now or who are waiting for bail? Do we see that they, in this case, then could be or would be guilty of terrorism?
Absolutely not. I want to say first, I, Patrick Osoi, I trained in anti-terrorism and terrorism training. And what I want to say is that what we are seeing today and what we do not understand as a Kenya is that we have a book, a constitution that is only used when the government systems want to weaponize it to use against the citizens of this country. I want to bear witness that most of you, we also were surprised even how the impeachment took place. We never saw that come to be. So we are having a book and a constitution that is being used, or that can only be used by these individuals to weaponize it against, or rather to protect themselves to continue what they are doing. So on the context of terrorism, I want to say that our police officers, when they are training in Kiganjo, they are not trained on dealing with terrorism. They are civil police to start with. So when we have provisions of special unit in the government system, and especially from the police service, actually, these are small units provided and trained specifically to be used by individuals to undermine the power of the people, or to undermine some individuals, or rather to be used as, I would say that, legalized militia. That's what I would say. And I want to say that because I'm a person who have been in the system and not just in military special forces, I also worked for the National Intelligence Service. So we have the information. And the information is that these ATPU police officers are not happy to just start with because they know they are not doing what they're supposed to do. They are not trained, if in this case, to deal with terrorism, and not to deal with the Kenyan people or to deal with the citizens. They are trained to deal with terrorists. And when we talk of terrorists, let me tell you, Odu, even if today I found you with a gun, it does not define that you are a terrorist. You must have intentions of terrorism to aid to amount to be a terrorist. It's just a criminal offense for me to find you with a gun, or to find you even with materials that can amount to any damage. So what I'm seeing here today is provisions of some, malicious things, and the information that is there, and that is which we have, is that the government of today, they have decided to use the government systems, and in this case, ATPU police, we have other special unit within the government system, just to undermine and to be able to intimidate, and also not just to intimidate the citizens of this country, also to intimidate our constitution, because as you see in the provision of Article 37, 33, the provision of freedom has been infringed by the government system of today. And just to surprise you, I think, Madam Odu, you know me, maybe my presenter today might not know me. Last year, when I came around from the state, I declared to run for Kenyan presidency in 2027. This is not just a mission that I decided to do. Remember, coming from the uniform, we are not political. I've heard the government system even accusing people of anarchy. But I look at it and wonder where and what anarchy is. The anarchy comes in when there is no order. And when it is no order, there are two options to happen, either anarchy or the coup. Those are only two options that the government system has to do. And let me tell you, those are forms of government also that can also help the government to be run in the way the people want it to be run. So when we have the authority and this authority which is provided to be with the people under Article 1, then the people take the mandate to run it. And let me just try to balance it in this case. That when we have leaders who are, in quote, terrorists in power, then it amounts to the citizens who also act towards the same force. So the disconnect we are seeing today, and the issues we are seeing today, even the accusation of young men, 18 years, 20 years, who do not even understand what a terrorist is, who they have never even witnessed, not like us who have dealt with terrorists one-on-one. A terrorist aspect or a terrorist person who has often to be a terrorist is someone who has intentions and defined intentions, whereby if you check, Wakili will tell you today that in Kenya we do not have something called mens rea and actions rea, where we look at the circumstances of why things happen. Those things are only checked when a prominent person has gotten into any kind of crime or they have committed some kind of a crime. So what we are seeing today, Madam Odu, is that we really are in a very bad state as a country, where young men who do not have any weapons, and mark you, most of the people who have been shot in the street did not even have a pen to poke anybody, did not have anything to do. And the act of terrorism should be dealt with, I would say this, by the military trained special unit. That's what I would say, special forces and long-range surveillance, them that have been trained to deal with terrorism, to do interrogations. And before you even accuse a terrorist, you need to do interrogation first. Interrogate them before even you are laying them in court. If today, and when I was in the special forces, when we caught any terrorist, you cannot arraign them in court. First, you have to do interrogation to determine the intentions if they meet the threshold to be called a terrorist.
Okay. So
yes.
So Eric, if we look at the court system or the procedure for this, it's a pretty serious charge. This terrorism, it's serious. So for such charges to be leveled against anybody, and then by the next morning such charges to be dropped, what would be the process for seeing that would be the charge that would be leveled first? What would I need to see? What would I need to then, as the state, in this case would be the office of ODPP, what would need to be clear that will say, okay, this is where we've landed at terrorism, or this is where we've landed as a different kind of offense? And then in the next instance, literally 24 hours later, drop such charges.
I'd want to think that obviously there was a bit of uproar and pressure arising from declarations that certain charges, especially terror-related charges, are going to be preferred against some individuals. And because you see, the process is that there must be prior investigations. Those investigations must reveal an offense known in law, and those offenses that are known in law have certain ingredients, and when those ingredients are met, then the DPP will approve the charges. If those ingredients are not met, then the DPP would not approve the charges. So we may not know what what could have led to certain charges being dropped when there was a declaration that let's say for the case of Boniface Mwangi that he was likely to face terrorist charges. But we also know that there are quite a number of people who have been charged or have been presented in court with an application to detain them because the state intends to present charges of terrorism against them. But the bottom line is that it appears to me that there is an intention to stigmatize those that are going out legitimately to express their displeasure with government. There is rather malicious use of the criminal justice system, and I say this because you have to see the contrast that is there. That they are during the protests that have gone on, you have seen people coming out armed with rungus and getting police protection. So they are organized, they are out there and getting police protection. You are having policemen who are coming out who are covered so that you cannot be able to identify who they are. And they are coming out, they are heavily armed in civilian vehicles, in civilian wear, contrary to court orders that when police go out for purposes of quelling any demonstration or riots arising from a demonstration, that they should be dressed properly. Now, look at that and ask yourself, shouldn't those be the people facing these charges of terrorism if we want to take that direction as a country? It is a wrong direction, but they are people who are actually have committed crimes or have enabled crimes to be committed that would then be meeting the threshold of terrorism, if that is the route that the government wants to take. But the selective application of these terrorism charges then leads you to only one conclusion, that their intention is to stigmatize those that have been arrested, but most importantly is to stigmatize the protests that have been held.
Okay.
And to then use the system to fight a political or to push a political narrative. And the danger with doing this is that then the police force or the police service ends up losing credibility. You can see what has happened with all these things. It is getting to a point where the IG of the police, the director of DCI, his deputy, cannot tell us something that is straight. They cannot tell us something that we can believe. DIG Langat says, I'm stepping aside. Then later, a document comes out in court that says, no. Actually, this was an affidavit and says, I never stepped aside. I went on leave. And so you ask yourself, if that is what the politicization of the police force is doing to our police officers, to the extent that no one can now take their word, they lack credibility.
So, Eric, I have a question on that train of thought. Let's assume, as things stand right now, that's their position, that's what they're doing, and that's what they will continue doing. At the end of this spectrum, I'm looking at the judiciary. And sometimes I sit back and I'm thinking, are the courts then alive to what's going on around the country and seeing all these things? And I'm going to give you a classic example. There are many, but I'm just going to pick this one because this one is in today's dailies. So the state is going to prefer terror-related charges against 7 young people that were arrested in Machakos during the Sabasaba demonstrations. So the 6 men and a woman were rearrested at Kithimani in Machakos yesterday. And this happened soon after the prosecution dropped arson and malicious damage charges against them. So these were the first charges. They are dropped. Then they are rearrested before they even go far. They are taken back to the same courts with fresh charges, and these charges are terror-related. I mean, as a judge or a magistrate, looking at all this going on, because, as we are saying, things may not change from this other end. Right. But surely, where is then the position in this criminal justice system? Where is the judiciary? And how should then the judiciary address itself to what is going on?
You know, we are in a very difficult situation as a country. Very, extremely difficult. And, you know, what you are asking is something that troubles a lot of us, especially those of us who are in the legal fraternity, because they are established norms. There is a way in which the police are supposed to behave. There is a way in which the DPP is supposed to behave. There is a way in which the courts and the lawyers are all supposed to behave. And it is defined. And the reason why it is defined and the reason why we have laws is so that we can be able to maintain law and order. Now, when you have the police service, which is the primary, they have a primary responsibility to observe and maintain law and order, being the violators of the law, so that the police are behaving as if they are above the law. That is what is creating the problem for us. And I think that and I'm glad, and that's why I always want to speak about it anytime I get an opportunity, because they are making all of us unsafe. Now, the problem and the way our law is structured, and I want to commend the judiciary, because you have seen in most of these cases, they have given extremely reasonable bond terms, even in the face of extremely serious charges that should attract higher and stiffer bond terms.
So they get it.
Okay. The only problem is that they are at the end of the chain. So you have to process that person, you have to bring a charge, and as long as that charge is a charge known in law and is disclosing an offense, then the courts have to take it. The question of whether there will be enough evidence to sustain that charge is not material at the time of taking plea, even though the court can be looking at it and saying that I know you don't even have the evidence, you're not even going to be able to prove this. So, and that's a point where the court will probably, give favorable bond terms.
But is this the same court then within its legal framework to dismiss?
No, they cannot. They cannot. Unfortunately, they cannot. But what can only happen is that then someone can move to the High Court to challenge those charges and making an allegation that the DPP has abused his power, because eventually what would happen is that if those charges are not sustained, then someone has a remedy in the form of making a claim for malicious prosecution. But you remember there was also someone in Ruiru who was released by the courts because the court felt that those charges were not well founded. And in this case, for example, where the DPP is withdrawing charges because clearly they don't have the evidence to sustain that charge, and then this person is rearrested thereafter. So you can tell from the manner in which the police are behaving that they have certain orders to ensure certain things are done in a particular way, in a manner that is defying sense.
Okay. It is for the purposes of really putting away any kind of criminality, or is it for the optics, to paint a picture to the public that perhaps this is how we want to quell this thing? The question is it gone too far? Has it gone too far where there might be an offence? Truly, we're looking at the justice, there might be an offence. There could have been somebody who was out during these protests, having infiltrated them, done one thing or the other. Is the terrorism charge that we see being slapped on individuals too big? Is it too much? And as we ask that question as we are going to the break, we imagine that it's being used to quell any kind of dissent? Because you don't want a charge of terrorism against you. So if you hear that it is happening to other people, the likelihood of you stepping out of your door when anything is happening then reduces significantly. Are they true charges, or are they being weaponized?
As I said earlier, our government system, for many years, it hasn't started now, they have been using the security systems or security apparatus to do politics, or rather to weaponize them, to protect them, or to undermine either their opponents, or also to undermine the citizens of this country. So I'm left wondering that if an 18-year-old, 22 years, 25-year-old person accused of terrorism, what are we left with when we talk of the real terrorist? As a person who has done international terrorism and terrorism with Egypt, I look at things in a very different way. And even from the information that we have, that I asked the anti-terror police when I met them at Kahawa Court, and I asked them, why are you doing this? And again, what I would say is that what the government is doing is actually undermining even not just the people, also the unit to do what they are not supposed to do. Weaponizing the ATPU police to deal with terrorists. And in this case, I've said again, these are young people who do not even know what terrorism is. What are we left with people that we have seen with explosives? Or rather, are we narrowing it down to an extent whereby any criminal charges in this country will amount to terrorism? Mm-hmm. Because now what I said and what I want to support Wakili today is that what we have lacked in this country is, I don't think we even have a constitution that we follow, because it's only used by individuals to do what they are supposed to do. The judicial system always in a fix, and I'm tempted to think that we need to come with systems whereby, other than provision of the prosecutions,
officers of the ODP,
the officers of the prosecution being there, we still think we really need them to have a department to do investigation independently, because now charges are engineered from the origin, and by the time they are getting to the judicially, they already are in a line to what the law maybe subscribe them. So therefore, the judges are left without knowing what to do.
So, Patrick, I have a question.
Right.
Because you've repeated this twice.
Right.
And I was, all along, I've just been stuck with what you just said initially. And
yes.
You said the intelligence reports you've gathered and your conversations with the ATPU officers is they also don't like what they're being forced to do.
Correct.
So in your conversations with them and the reports that you're gathering, I'm tempted to ask who, but is it an order? They're being called and they're told, look, you're going for an operation, this and this and this and this person, the people you're going to arrest and go to court with them. What exactly is happening behind the scenes?
So whatever is happening, and what happened when we had the previous demonstration that we had the other day for Saba, there was an order that came from the State House, absolutely. So that now they were told to undermine or to be able to have these charges against these young people. One, to make sure that they are not able to raise the bill, or 2, they're able to be charged like the long-term charges, because terrorism charge is not just a charge, is a charge that will amount you to prison for some time. And 2, if you have to pay the cash bill, you have to pay a cash bill that is so high. So it's a way that the government is using to be able to curtail, or rather to undermine the people, in rather to do demonstration, and in this case peaceful demonstration. And also my question, I'm left asking, the looting we saw the other day, the destruction of properties, the Maguna supermarket and other supermarket in the country today, people with weapons walking in town, none of those people, I can tell you for a fact, were arrested. At the same time, I'm also left wondering that we have failed to understand one thing, that the government, I would call it the political class, they've been using for a long time. And I think time has come, and time is very near, whereby the police service get used to attack the citizens, and the citizens are engineered to believe, or rather they are psychologically prepared to believe, that the police are the enemies. So therefore these people fight, and when they fight, what happens? The political class continue to do what they are supposed to do, so violating.
And in your experience, because you have been an operative,
right,
the funding that goes to ATPU, because I've been embedded with them before,
right,
I've gone for operations,
right,
and these are terror-related operations,
correct.
And the seriousness, when you're having a conversation about going after a terrorist, I understand the seriousness of it.
Right.
With your experience being involved in this sector,
right,
does this then dilute the real fight against terrorism? Because it's the same officers who will get orders to and briefs to go for this kind of operations. Is it diluting it?
Absolutely. It's really diluting the essence and even the word terrorism. Because when you actually are given a mandate, let's say, for example, it's like giving a Form 4 leaver to do an exam for Class 8. Or rather, you are being undermined to do a work or job that you're not supposed to be doing. In this case, you wonder, like, how are you going to amount this to a terrorism, charges against someone who, in this case, you never arrested them with weapons, you never arrested them with any, whether it's explosive or something. So it really undermines the use and ATPU as a whole, and not just ATPU, also the police service. So what I'm seeing today is we are in a very bad crisis, that which will, and you have also seen today how we have and cops, talking every day here and there. This thing is developing, and once it is developing, the state will be left without with nothing to do, because now what I'm looking at is that in near future, probably in less than 2 years, we might have a police unit or service that now thinks, I think we have been getting used by the system, and people understands that the system, or rather the political class, have been using the police to attack us, and then the people realizes the enemies is not the police, the enemies is the political class. So what I'm seeing the government do not see is that they are creating a crisis for themselves, whereby when you undermine the usage of something, then it becomes useless to it.
Wakili, I have a question, and this one now is just thinking the future.
Right.
So currently we are having all these protesters going to court with these terror-related charges. I draw to a personal experience I had many years ago. I was in Israel, and when they were looking at my passport, they looked at a number of countries I traveled to, and we were in a group, and I was taken to their side and interrogated why I'd visited some of those countries. I had no clue why they were asking. Later on is when I discovered, wait, they've listed some of these countries with terrorism. So why did you visit this country? Why did you stay for this length of time? Why this, why that? That's when it hit me. There are consequences when you visit certain countries and you have a stamp on your passport. Now, when someone is charged with terror-related charges, what are the implications? Because I understand they are far-reaching. What are the implications to a person, both socially, legally? when you have on record that you were charged with terrorism, whether you post a bail, whether you're acquitted, whatever happens, but you're on record that you once went to a courtroom with terror-related charges. What are the implications and the future consequences to a person?
They are deep, far-reaching, and extremely damaging to a person. What would happen is that ideally, you have what they call like a terror watch list, and then at the level of fighting terror, you have a lot of multi-agency coordination, because terrorism is an offense that is extra jurisdictional. That the Kenyan police force needs to work with the Uganda, with the US, with the CIA, with the Mossad, with all those agencies. And as you are saying, in your situation, you probably would have had then the Israeli security forces calling their counterparts on the other side and asking, there's this gentleman, what do you have on him? Is he okay? We've seen he's gone to these other countries. And they will do that in the background without you probably even knowing that is what is being done. And that is what is the most distressing thing about what the government is doing. Because it is actually character assassinating its own citizen by designating them as terrorists. It is the worst form. It's someone who is a terrorist. If we were to classify offenses, would be worse than a murderer. Because a murderer, would only kill Osoi.
One person.
It's one person.
One or two.
Yeah. But a terrorist, in fact, a successful act of terrorism is counted by the number of bodies and damage
under
that they carried out. That's how they are celebrated. And when you have a government that seeks to stigmatize its people, when you have an ordinary criminal case, and I'm saying ordinary where it's arson and whatever, even leaving the country for your own business, you have to notify the court that, look, I am traveling, I'm going to Dubai to have some fun, or I'm going to Dubai for medical reasons. This is my ticket. I'm leaving on this day and I'm coming back on this day, because there are implications. It might be treated that you are going out of the country to run. Now you can imagine when you are facing terrorism charges. If just an ordinary criminal case creates that kind of damage to you, what about terrorism? And I think, and this is where I have a problem, that knowing that the offenses that these people are being charged with do not amount to terrorism, and knowing that the real reason behind this is to stigmatize those that are engaging in this protest with a view of perhaps preventing them from, or preventing others from going to the streets, because then they will then be labeled as terrorists, but also because there is a political angle to the so-called financiers of the protests, so that then those that are financing then would technically then be called financiers of terrorism. And then peddle a political narrative against them. That when you look at it, is the real intention behind this. But no one is sitting to ask themselves, what kind of damage are we
doing?
Yeah, not just to those that you are going to charge. But let me ask you, if I am a magistrate And you can see the way they came and lied to a certain magistrate who gave them orders to go and investigate Boniface Mwangi, search Boniface Mwangi. If I am a magistrate who has gone through that, when the police come with a proper case,
you're going to dismiss
for
it.
terrorism,
Yeah.
what am I going to do?
I need to understand something just based on that, and I think this is a question that's coming through for a lot of folks, that those who've been arrested and then been slapped on these terrorism charges today, from what I understand, in order for an arrest to take place within the Kenyan jurisdiction, that there must be a warrant granted by a judge magistrate. Is that the case, or are we looking at a different case when it comes to these particular ones?
No. We do not need such a warrant as long as there is an offence that has been disclosed. Then the police can arrest you. In certain instances, if the police then want to come and search your premises, depending on the category of the offence, then they might be required to obtain a warrant so that they can come and search your place. But to arrest you, no. I mean, perhaps maybe we need looking at what is happening in this country, we need such a system because it happens in other countries where you have a court that is able to look at those charges or the investigations, especially on serious offences, and direct how those things are going to be done. If we had those in our instance, then the judiciary would be in a better place because they would be able to sieve. And most of these charges would actually fail at that point without, the stigma that is there, because then the court would have looked at it and said, no, we don't think that you have enough evidence to sustain this charge. Look at this, bring me this, bring that. And if you don't have it, then sorry. You're not going to charge this person or arrest and charge this person with this offense.
Does it water down, and just very quickly from both of you here, does it water down authenticity of the judicial system and process if we see the throwing around of such serious charges, then maybe dropping them later, but then we can throw a serious charge of this nature at someone or at a number of people? Does it water down potency of the system and its process?
Yes, it does. It makes a mockery of everything. It makes a mockery of everything. It makes a mockery of a system that is actually intended to preserve and protect public order. Yeah, and that is the long-term effect. And you see what is happening is that unfortunately sometimes people will not understand the place of the judiciary. You have seen courts being attacked. And this has not just happened even in Kenya. In Nigeria, they burnt down an entire court premises.
Yes, they did.
In Lagos. And why? Because at a certain point, because the judiciary is the end, it is at the end, it receives. It has very passive role in these charges, but because it has to hear them and eventually make a determination. And so judiciary ends up being seen as a collaborator.
Yes.
And when the judiciary is then seen as a collaborator, when the police force is no longer being treated with integrity and no one can believe anything that comes out of them because they keep on giving contradictory statements, what it does is that it waters down the entire system. It removes credibility and eventually exposes the country to a danger, because if the police are violating the law and getting away with it, what is it sending to me as a citizen, as a message that I can actually get away with crime?
Indeed.
Yeah.
And so, Patrick, as we wrap up,
what I would say is that even most people who are in prison today, most of them did not actually commit the crimes that they committed. So what happens, I wouldn't want to say that I would want to blame the judicial system, because judicial system is determined by the evidence that is tabled in a certain case. So if the system today, or the police service, or the investigation body want to plant something to accuse you of a certain offense, that is exactly what they are going to do. So the judge will not look at me as an 18 years or 25 years old, will look at the evidence tabled before him or before her to determine the case of any offense. So what we are looking today, and the reasons why you saw those people going to do the, going to Boniface Mwangi, or rather going to, to do collection of evidence, is just to engineer charges and rather to collect evidences, or to plant evidences so that it can amount to the charges that they are presenting that person to. So what I'm looking at is a rotten system that need to be fixed, because if the judicial service has to do their work, they can only do it when they have a system that is an investigative system that is credible.
Patrick Osoi and Eric Theuri, thank you for joining us this morning. Just continue to see how these continue to unfold. But thanks for driving the discourse further this morning as we do.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.